Hey, what's going on, Atlanta Falcon fans, man? Y'all know who it is. It's your boy Antoine Smith, man. I want to stop through right quick, give y'all my thoughts, man, on Jeremy Fowler's um, trade offers for Kirk Cousins, and man, it's it's pretty smooth, man. But not only did he throw in a trade offer, you had Dan Graziano, Ben Solak, and Seth Walder throwing in trade ideas as well for Kirk Cousins, who's on the hook. Falcons on the hook for 27.5 million this year. And then we heard all over the last couple of months, man, the Falcons want somebody to take a bulk of that salary. And you can't blame him, man. My opinion is the future, his time is now. And next year, even they have a 26 million. I'm sorry, a $10 million bonus they have to pay next year in guaranteed money. So it's best to go and get it out the way, man, and try to push it off on somebody else and let them deal with it. Because let's be real, man, it was going smooth until he said that he ended up injured last year after this season was over. But you got to remember the Falcons lost a fifth round pick for him running his mouth as well. So that energy is just not needed in the locker room anymore, man. And there's no disrespect to nobody, but when you get to a point where you have to cause trouble, it's time for you to go. And he did get a meeting with Arthur Blank. So they've talked about it. Arthur Blank has said himself, uh, they're gonna do what's best for the Falcons, and they could hold on to him for the rest of the 2025 season. But Jeremy Fowler's offer, you see it on the screen, man. Falcons get Kenny Pickett 2026 sixth round pick and cash consideration. And I'm thinking that cash consideration is paying off some of that contract. And the Browns would get Kirk Cousins 2026 seventh round pick, which is really to me a trade swap. Um, but it said this destination always made the most sense for Cousins, who has a long history with the Browns. Kevin Stefanski from Minnesota. OTAs and many count the Browns might realize they need another veteran to compete for the starting job. They have Flacco, Dylan Gabriel, and Shador Sanders. And y'all got to remember Deshaun Watson is out with an Achilles injury for this year. And they're going to compete for that starting spot. But it said the Falcons strike a deal. They front 17.5 million of the guaranteed money. And that means the Vikings will be on the hook for, the Browns will be on the hook for the other 10. And Pickett would be announced as new quarterback too. Now, one thing I like about this trade is you getting a solid backup quarterback, man. And we all need backup quarterbacks. Kenny Pickett, who was drafted in the first round by the Steelers, went to the University of Pittsburgh. So it was like he was right at home when they made that move. But things didn't work out in Pittsburgh. He ended up getting traded to the Eagles, and now he's on the Browns, and he could possibly get traded again. So he might be a journeyman the rest of his career. But his cap number is very low. So you will have probably the lowest cap room of quarterbacks in the NFL this year, or one of them, with a Kenny Pickett trade. And that 6th round pick, man, you getting back a 6th round pick that you remember you lost. You've already traded away a 1st and a 5th next year, so that would replace one of those draft picks. So in that aspect, it makes sense as well. But honestly, man, the way I've been seeing Shador Sanders playing Cleveland doing the OTAs, to me, he has a shot at being a starting quarterback, even though they said Joe Flacco is going to be that guy. Shador Sanders with a strong preseason, I can see him moving up the board, take the number 1 spot, and Joe Flacco turns to be the number 2 quarterback, and Dylan Gabriel be the 3rd string quarterback or practice squad quarterback, whichever what they choose to do. But let's look at the Minnesota Vikings and Dan Graziano's offer. And this is another thing that I've been hearing a lot as well the last couple of weeks about Minnesota possibly still needing, to bring in a quarterback. Because JJ McCarthy, he had surgery. They say he's ready to go. But if he has another setback, that could possibly sideline him for at least half the season. But we'll see about that. But this offer is a 2026 5th round pick and a 2027 7th round pick, cash considerations, which taking on salary cap, like I said, and the Vikings get Cousins. He said his deal makes sense for both sides. It says all 3 sides really counting Cousins himself, who wants to start And that's the thing, man. No matter where you go, Kirk Cousins, I know you want to start. You're 37 years old, so at some point, McCarthy's gonna have to come in and you back to square one again. So let's finish it, man. He said he wants a chance to start and could use his no trade clause to nix a deal to any place he doesn't want to go, and that's true. But if he has to be a backup, we know he liked living in Minnesota and playing for the Vikings. JJ McCarthy still unknown after knee injury, so maybe it could turn into more than just a quarterback to destination. In this scenario, Vikings would agree to pay $10 million of the guaranteed money on Cousins' contract for this year. And that makes so much sense, but you got to, like I said, with JJ McCarthy, you don't know what's going to happen with that knee. He's already had one setback, and they're saying that he's getting close to being where he needs to be. But if you have to sit him out another year, you do bring in a Kirk Cousins, bring him back actually, to start for JJ McCarthy. And honestly, depending on how the season ends, this may be Kirk Cousins' last run. So JJ McCarthy will have set for 2 seasons if that injury is not healed like it's supposed to be. He comes back in 2026 as the starter and still on a rookie deal, so the Vikings still win. But Kirk Cousins to Minnesota makes sense. But does Kirk Cousins really want to backtrack and go back to Minnesota? That is the key question. Let's look at Ben Solak's offer. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is no surprise either because they are in quarterback purgatory, and I think Ben Roethlisberger hurt them his final years by them not going out and replacing, finding him a replacement while he was still playing. So they've been playing musical chairs as well, just like the Falcons at quarterback the last couple of years. So nothing solid. Russell Wilson last year, he goes over to the Giants this year. So they're stuck with Mason Rudolph, and they still waiting on Aaron Rodgers. But honestly, if that does happen, it will surprise me because Aaron Rodgers don't even know what Aaron Rodgers wanted to do. But Ben Solak's offer is a 2026 six-round pick that could become a fifth rounder with performance conditions. And that's a pretty smart move because when you do things like that, you make them produce so you can get your money's worth. And the Steelers get Cousins and cash considerations, meaning the Falcons may pay off most of that salary or more than they're willing to. But he said it makes sense because still the quarterback room is thin and can go into training camp. Rodgers falls through. The Steelers must trade for a veteran who can start. Mason Rudolph is currently number one on the depth chart, and we all know Mason Rudolph is not a long-term answer. But he said Cousins is a good fit for coordinator Arthur Smith's offense, but it is to a certain extent. But I thought with that type of offense, you kind of need a mobile guy. But I digress. Um, he said what you doesn't need is quarterback to move much out of the pocket. Well, so I guess they need a pocket passer. But he said this late of a draft pick is a close to Cousins value, and I'd imagine the Falcons still waiting to swallow that $20 million or maybe even more of this salary to get the deal done. And that's the thing. Would the Falcons, be willing to pay most of that $27.5 million? At this point, I think they got to. So we'll see. Last but not least, Seth Walder's offer. This was a good one too. Quarterback Sam Howell, and cash consideration, and if I can get Cousins. And Sam Howell will be a viable backup because he's no, knockout, drag out, light up the scoreboard type quarterback, but he can get the job done. And as I keep saying, over and over, with the Falcons having a very good run game and strong offensive line, it could be, I think suitable for any quarterback in the league when you got a run game like the Falcons have with a Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier, and you had the weapons on offense in a Zach Robinson West Coast style offense. So I think he's quarterback friendly no matter what. But Seth said his deal makes sense because the key to the compensation for a Cousin deal is how much of his guaranteed money the acquiring team is willing to take on. And that's what we've been talking about. Say Ray Dan's offer and say the Vikings pay $12 million of it. This would allow Atlanta to save a little face and get out of the situation with a different backup quarterback. And if you trade Kirk Cousins, you definitely got to have a backup plan at backup quarterback. So trading for a backup is smart as well. because the only free agent that I see that I would probably bring in is probably going to be Teddy Bridgewater, and that's if he wants to come. But for Minnesota, the upgraded backup quarterback is more important because of the McCarthy situations. Cousins will have to accept a lesser role with his old team, but at least he'd be reunited with Kevin O'Connell. And that's the thing. Will he be willing to take a lesser role? I don't think so. So I think if he can't find a team that's willing to, I would say, at least think about giving him a starting position, and there's not many out there except Pittsburgh, I think he could be talking about retirement. He said he's already been thinking about it, and I think that's definitely on the table at this point because I don't think he wants to backtrack and go back to being a backup. Something he hadn't did since his Washington days, and at 37, he's done what he needed to do in the NFL. And if he retires, hey, it is what it is. He had a solid career, and it's just time to sit it down. But they think the Cleveland has the most upside. All of these are compelling for the Falcons, but Cousins both offers from the Vikings are dead on arrival. He wants to start, and he's more likely want to do it in Minnesota, even if if he loved living there. This will be basically the same situation in Atlanta, and I said that use his no trade clause would likely nix the Vikings, and that's true. Because like I said, at some point JJ McCarthy comes back this year, he's going to take over. So and he's the future in Minnesota. They said that, but Cousins, like I said, I'm gonna tell you, you 37 years old, so you got to know that backup is a possibility no matter where you go. Look at Joe Flacco. He's 40 years old. He doesn't mind being a backup. And you making $20+ million a year. Why should you care about being a backup? I hold a clipboard for 27 million. Hell, I hold a clipboard for $4.95. So you just gotta think about it, man. It's just really the situation that you want to be in. But it says Solak's offer with the Steelers would be a great scheme fit for the sitting caller, but the Browns offer works in more ways. For the Falcons, they get Pickett, who showed with the Eagles last season that he could be a serviceable backup. Most importantly, for Atlanta, it would be relieved of $10 million of Kirk Cousins 2025 guaranteed money. Meanwhile, he would be reunited with Kevin Stefanski and likely start in Cleveland over the rest of the quarterback options. And that's a win for everybody. So I think Solak's think he's right on point with that, man, that with the Steelers, that's what offers him the best, position. But yeah, man, these are 4 trade offers that they were looking at, and I just had to talk about it right quick because I think Kirk Cousins needs to be gone, but if you can't get rid of that contract, what else can you do? But those are my quick thoughts on that, man. Y'all let me know what y'all think by dropping those comments in the comment box. Let's debate. Let's have fun as always, man. Y'all know how we doing on the Sports Machine. It's your boy Antoine Smith signing off. I will holler at y'all soon, man, because I'm ready for this season to come. Peace.